crap.
While the late 80s were defined by various sci-fi adventure films, Robocop was one of the most groundbreaking films in this genre, and it went on to create a whole franchise. The titular character, Robocop, aka Alex Murphy, is a fierce and dedicated police officer whose life takes a tragic turn when he is killed and then transformed into a cybernetic cop. He was first introduced in 1987 and has been written into various movies, animated series, and comics ever since. Today, we will explore his entire story arc and tell you everything about this fierce cop who did everything he could to fight crime and uphold justice. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Curious Case of Alex Murphy, aka Robocop. We were first introduced to Alex Murphy, aka Robocop, in the 1987 Robocop movie, which was directed by Paul Verhoeven. Peter Weller played the role of Alex Murphy and greatly popularized this character, which was later written into various movies and comics. The film was set in the near future in the dystopian city of Old Detroit, where crime had taken over the city and resulted in a financial crisis. While the police force struggles to fight the situation despite being short-staffed, we are introduced to Alex Murphy as he gets transferred to the Metro West precinct and meets his new partner, Ann Lewis. Ann gets rid of a few criminals in the precinct, and the two soon leave to investigate a robbery case. In the meantime, the government decided to join hands with a corporation named Omni Consumer Products, OCP, to fund the police force. During an OCP meeting, the organization's senior president, Dick Jones, proposes that they make use of his new invention, an ED-209 android that can fight crime. However, the ED-209 brutally kills one of the junior executives during the presentation, and they decide against using it. Another executive named Bob Morton puts forth his new Robocop program, and the company's CEO decides to go ahead with his plan. While the Robocop program showed great promise, they needed a human host to go ahead with their plan. In a different part of the city, Alex and Ann follow up on the robbery case and come across the criminal named Clarence Bodiker. Bodiker's henchmen, Emil, Leon, Joe, and Steve corner Alex, who struggles to defend himself against the group of criminals. They torture Alex, and we learn that they have been involved in various cop killings in Detroit. Bodiker finally shoots and kills Murphy. After his death, Bob Morton uses Alex's body as the host for his Robocop program. His team salvages some of Murphy's organs and transfers them into a cybernetic body, and they even transfer his brain into this cyborg's head. While Alex is reborn as Robocop, he has no memory of his accident or death and only remembers a few hazy things from his past life. However, he retains one of his signature moves of spinning his pistol in his hand, and this helps Ann Lewis to recognize Murphy even after his transformation. Morton also programs Robocop with 3 directives: serving the public, protecting the innocent, and respecting the law. He also programs a 4th secret directive that prevents Robocop from killing any OCP executives. In his new form, Robocop turns out to be very efficient in fighting crime, and he eventually saves a woman from a bunch of men and also the life of the city's mayor. The city starts praising OCP for their successful Robocop initiative, while Dick Jones gets envious of Morton's success. He teams up with Bodiker and orders him to murder Morton. Robocop also slowly gets some of his memories back when Ann Lewis recognizes him and even addresses him as Murphy. He even runs into one of Bodiker's men named Emil, who recognizes Robocop's mannerisms and refers to him as Murphy. Robocop decides to go through Emil's record and check up on Murphy's police files, and some memories about his wife and son come back to him. He learns that they moved away after Murphy's death, and he soon tracks down Bodiker's entire gang. Robocop gets Bodiker to admit that he has been working for Dick Jones, and he even tries to kill him, but his directives stop him from doing so. Robocop finally heads to the OCP tower to arrest Jones, but the fourth directive prevents him from taking action against an OCP executive. In the meantime, Jones admits that he was involved in Morton's death, and he even sends the police and the deadly ED-209 robot to destroy Robocop. While Robocop suffers some injuries, his old partner Ann Lewis gets him to safety in an abandoned mill and helps him to repair his body. While Robocop removes his visor and reveals his face for the first time, the Detroit police force goes on a strike due to understaffing and budget issues, and chaos breaks out all over the city. Dick Jones uses this as an opportunity to free Bodiker and his gang from the prison, and even promises to make him the new crime lord if he gets rid of Robocop. Jones also provides Bodiker with weapons and vehicles to defeat Robocop, and the gang soon tracks him down at the abandoned mill. It turns out that this was the same place where Bodiker had killed Murphy, and the gang arrives at the mill and faces Robocop and Ann Lewis. The two of them manage to kill Bodiker's gang, while Robocop ends up with more injuries and wounds. Eventually, Bodiker targets Lewis and shoots at her, but Robocop rescues his partner and finally kills Bodiker by stabbing him. He then heads to the OCP tower and plays a recording tape of Dick Jones admitting to his role in Morton's death. Robocop further tells the OCP executives about the fourth directive that prohibits him from acting against an OCP employee, and the company's CEO soon fires Dick Jones. Now that Jones is not an OCP executive, Robocop shoots at Jones, who ends up flying through the window and falls to the ground. While OCP's CEO praises Robocop, he asks him for his name, and Robocop smiles and replies by saying that his name is Murphy. While Alex remains to be an essential part of the police force, he accepts his new body as a cyborg as the movie comes to an end. How Robocop evolved as the franchise progressed. After the massive success of the Robocop movie, a sequel was released in 1990 wherein Robocop starts getting flashes from his past life as Alex Murphy. As the film progresses, Robocop keeps an eye on his wife and kid and even visits his old home while his wife mourns his death and blames OCP for it. Eventually, Robocop also gets into trouble when OCP plans to create a Robocop 2 by using the actual brains of police officers, and he deals with this new cyborg who was supposed to replace him. In the third version of this movie, titled Robocop 3, Robert John Burke replaced Peter Weller as Robocop. This movie primarily focused on Alex Murphy as he tries to avenge his partner's death, who had died at the hands of one of OCP employees named Paul McDaggett. Robocop was also determined to stop OCP's plans to demolish the city to build a new Delta City. He single-handedly leads a fight against OCP and even succeeds as the organization finally shuts down and stops interfering with the matters of Detroit City. A Robocop reboot was released in 2014, and this movie was set in the year 2025, wherein Omnicorp was well established as a company that develops robotics. Alex Murphy was introduced as a police officer who is quite devoted to his family, and he eventually ends up in an accident while doing his duty. Dr. Norton of Omnicorp saves him with their robotic technology, and Alex returns to his old life with a new body and enhanced abilities. However, Norton's technology suppresses Alex's human side, and he becomes a lot more ruthless and detached from his human self. Even though he was widely successful in fighting crime after getting his new body, Alex's behavior affected his wife and son, and Dr. Norton eventually suppressed his earlier memories. This movie portrayed Alex as a dedicated family man who goes to great lengths to ensure his family is doing well. He finally gets back his memories and learns that his son has PTSD due to the trauma he went through after Alex's accident. In the meantime, Omnicorp's CEO Sellers decides to get rid of Robocop before the situation gets out of control, and Norton finally tells Alex the whole truth. Alex manages to escape the Omnicorp building, but soon returns to find that Sellers is holding his son and wife hostage. While Sellers boasts about how Alex is programmed to follow his order and not do him any harm, Alex overrides his programming and kills him. Various animated TV series inspired by the Robocop franchise were released later on, and a few of them were titled Robocop, Robocop Alpha Commando, and Robocop Prime Directives. All these movies and shows created quite a legacy for the Robocop franchise. They showed the main protagonist in various lights as Robocop grew from the experience and became a stronger entity that stood up for what was right. One of the writers of the original Robocop film, Ed Neumeyer, also hinted at a direct sequel of the 1987 film, and fans have been eagerly waiting to see how this plays out.
I say we go in three.
What was Robocop really like? Alex Murphy was a dedicated police officer who carried out his duties well and abided by the law while dealing with crime in the city. He was quite an honest character who did not have any secrets to hide, and he displayed great courage during his time in the police force. After his transformation into Robocop, Alex lost his fighting spirit and he questioned whether he could continue living his old life after losing so many body parts. However, he adapted to his new body for the sake of his family and tried to make the best of the situation. Robocop's body was created out of Alex Murphy's flesh and brain, combined with robotic limbs, and his body was covered in armor from head to toe. The scientists who played a role in his transformation messed up his brain functioning and even reduced his dopamine levels to 2%. This resulted in a loss of emotions, and Alex mostly functioned as a brain-dead zombie who only followed orders and did what he was told to do in a robotic manner. He did not hesitate to kill any criminals, but at the same time, he also did not attack anyone unprovoked. He was quite focused on his missions and did not rest until he had gotten rid of his targets and did not show any mercy to any wrongdoers. However, his human side was still beneath this exterior, and he eventually managed to override his programming when he realized that his family was struggling due to his condition. In this sense, Alex Murphy was quite a loving and loyal father and husband who always prioritized his family. His sense of responsibility towards his family was strong enough to help him override complex robotic programming, and his human side resurfaced soon after his transformation. Exploring the comic book story arc of Robocop. Robocop was also a titular character in various comic books, and one of the most popular comic series featuring him was the Robocop vs. Terminator comics. This comic mini-series consisted of 4 parts, and it was published by Dark Horse Comics in 1992. The comic's first issue begins in the year 2029, wherein Flo Langer from the Resistance faction enters the mind of the advanced computer system known as Skynet. It seems that Skynet had become self-aware and had started seeing humanity as a threat. While Flo Langer tries to figure out what helped Skynet achieve this feat, John Connor tells her that a human mind was behind this. Flo identifies this person as Alex Murphy and learns that he was a Detroit police officer from the past who was later transformed into a cyborg. Skynet was responsible for a nuclear strike that wiped out billions of people in a story arc known as Judgment Day, and Flo Langer was determined to prevent this. She heads to the past with the intention of killing Murphy before he can influence Skynet, and uses the time displacement equipment to go back in time. She shows up in old Detroit and heads to Murphy's old address, where she meets Murphy's wife and learns that he has already died and transformed into a cyborg. Flo then heads out and decides to find special weaponry so that she can defeat Robocop. She invents a plasma weapon and even faces the ED-209 robot in the streets. After testing her weapon on this robot, Flo learns that Robocop is a part of a crime prevention unit and that he usually stays in in a chamber at the police station. She heads to the station and steals a security card to break into his chamber, where she runs into Dr. Marie Lazarus. She attacks her and steals her tracking device that can be used to trace Robocop before heading out of the place. In the meantime, Robocop comes across a man who had strapped a bomb to his body and was threatening to blow the place up. While Robocop ensures that the man is safe and throws the bomb in the air to avoid any destruction caused by it, Flo shows up at the scene and shoots at him with her plasma weapon. Robocop asks her who she is, and she shoots at him again and disintegrates his head. In the year 2029, Skynet sends the Terminators to the past in an alternate timeline in order to save Murphy from Flo. These Terminators were known as infiltrators who appeared as humans, and they took the form of 2 men, 1 woman and a male child as they traveled to the past and dressed up as citizens of Detroit. In this timeline, the infiltrators prevent Flo from shooting at Robocop at a drive-in, and Robocop soon spots them and attacks them. While one of the male infiltrators gets injured, the rest of the Terminators run away while Robocop checks up on Flo. However, she asks him to get his hands off her and tells him that the whole world will die because of him and that he will be responsible for Judgment Day. In the second part of this mini-series, Flo recovers from the attack in a hospital when Robocop visits her. Flo is enraged to see him, and she tells him that his consciousness will be plugged into Skynet in a couple of years and that this will cause the destruction of the world. Flo further tells him that the Terminators are coming after her, while Robocop has a hard time trusting her word and he decides to investigate. In the meantime, the Terminators grow restless as they fail to kill Flo and wait until nightfall to make their next move. The ED-209 robot also stirs up trouble while directing traffic as the Terminators attack the police station. Robocop had confided in Dr. Marie Lazarus about the Terminators, and she finally witnesses them and realizes that he was telling the truth, while the police officers also become aware of their presence. In the meantime, Robocop stays at the hospital and waits for the Terminators to show up and attack Flo. While he scans the place for cybernetic activity, the Terminators show up in a vehicle and launch an attack. While Robocop faces them and engages in a deadly fight against the Terminators, he sends Marie to get Flo to safety. While the 2 ladies escape, they even run into some trouble of their own, but Flo uses her plasma weapon to defeat all opponents. As this issue comes to an end, Robocop defeats the Terminators while Flo questions whether killing Robocop is the only way to save the world. In the third issue, Flo tells Robocop that he isn't what she expected him to be, while Dr. Marie tries to devise alternate plans to save the future. Robocop asks Flo to use her plasma weapon to destroy his brain, and she comments on how only a human would be so noble to sacrifice his own life. She declares that she will find another way, while Robocop runs away from the scene and states that this is their only way. He visits his grave for one last time, and then decides that he is at peace with his future and that he must die and erase the mistake that he is. While Flo ends up getting questioned by the police, we see the state of the future and all the destruction and chaos that was caused by Skynet, while Robocop comes face to face with a young kid at his grave. The child tells Robocop that he has been tricked into seeing his destruction and that he has a better destiny. While Robocop initially pays him attention, he soon realizes that the child is an infiltrator in disguise and opens fire on him. The Terminator refers to Robocop as his creator and even states that he won't kill him but rather make him immortal. As this comic progresses further, the Terminator takes control over Robocop in a chamber that was built for Robocop's maintenance. Flo soon shows up in this place, and Robocop asks her to kill him before it is too late. While she shoots a bullet at him, the Terminator jumps in the middle and takes the bullet himself so that he can ensure that Robocop lives on. Robocop's personality and programming eventually gets encoded into the Skynet's memory banks, while Robocop helplessly watches it happen. While his self-awareness gives sentience to the Skynet systems, he ends up becoming the cause of Armageddon. Robocop prays that he is also the solution to this problem, and he replicates himself and tries to salvage his memories in the form of a digital copy of his soul. While the Terminator sense his presence and hunt him down, he moves through the Skynet memory banks and keeps duplicating himself at a pace that makes it impossible for the Terminators to erase his human presence. Eventually, he stumbles across an incorrect security code for a factory that builds the Terminators and takes control of the Skynet systems to create a weapon that can destroy all Terminators. While Robocop continues to fight against the Skynet systems and move through them without being detected, he finds an opportunity to create a Terminator body similar to his Robocop body. In the final part of this comic, Robocop breaks free from the Skynet systems and launches a full-scale war against this memory system. He even runs into Flo, who is confused by his identity, and Robocop introduces himself as Murphy and states that he is a friend. While Skynet launches one of its preemptive nuclear strikes, Robocop intervenes and reverses the course of the missile to prevent large-scale destruction. However, Robocop's body needs repairs, and he sneaks into the Terminator factory along with Flo, who helps him with maintenance. She also tells him that he can make an army of Robocops instead of just building a new body for himself, and he makes several duplicate copies of his program and creates an army of Robocops. Soon after, a battle ensues between the Terminators and the Robocops, while an external voice tries to convince Robocop not to betray his destiny. He enters a void in the middle of the sky, which takes him back to his past where he had a human body. Alex ends up meeting his wife and realizes that this is an illusion, and he finally fights back against the Terminators. The battle results in Flo's death, and she dies in Robocop's arms after telling him that he managed to save the future. However, Robocop decides that this is not enough, and he heads back in time to find and destroy the Skynet while it is in its initial stages. He blasts off into space and eliminates the Skynet before it obtains its sentience, thereby ensuring that the Terminators will never exist. As the comic comes to an end, we learn that Flo has survived in the future and is living in a world with no threat of destruction or Armageddon. On a different side, one of the Terminators survives and travels to the past and ends up in a prehistoric age where it gets destroyed by one of the ancient dinosaurs. The Robocop animated series wasn't exactly a smashing hit. Robocop certainly inspired a wide range of movies and even TV shows, and one of these shows was the animated Robocop series released in 1988. The animated series was based in a similar universe as the original movie, but it had made quite a lot of changes to the character's story arc as well as other vital elements of the franchise to make it age appropriate. It lasted for just one season, and Robocop's character was voiced by Robert Boxdale in this series. The show did not last long and was discontinued after just one season after receiving poor ratings and failing to live up to the audience's expectations.
I'm still scanning 3.
What made Robocop such an effective force? Alex Murphy had trained as a police officer and knew how to use a pistol and various other weapons. He always carried a pistol with him, and he was fitted with robotic hands and legs after his accident. In this new form, he was capable of stunning or killing anyone in his path, and he had 2 specially designed guns. Alex always preferred to carry the Auto 9 handgun, which was fitted into his suit of armor near his right leg. The ammunition for his gun was stored in his right wrist, and Alex could even detach his left hand and replace it with a Gatling gun as per his wish. Moreover, he also had enhanced reflexes and speed in his new form and could endure serious attacks without any injuries. He also had enhanced hearing and vision and contact access to database of information on various criminals and citizen profiles. This device was known as a data spike, which resembled a metallic spike that could also be used as a weapon at times. His robotic armor was also highly durable, and he could withstand most bullets and high-powered attacks without any injuries. However, he did require frequent maintenance to ensure that his remaining organs and cybernetic enhancements were working in good condition. In some versions, Robocop also wore a jetpack or used a motorbike to help him transport from one place to another. Can the iconic franchise be saved? While many reboots and animated series have not managed to stand out, there is still hope for the franchise after Ed Neumeyer announced a sequel titled Robocop Returns. Neil Blomkamp was initially involved in the movie's production, but he soon left the project in 2019 and Abe Forsyth replaced him as the director. Forsyth is working with screenwriter Ed Neumeyer on the script, and the writer talked about his plans for the sequel in an exclusive interview. He mentioned that the movie would focus on Omnicorp's vice president Dick Jones. Dick Jones essentially appears as an evil corporate predator, and Ed stated that the film will focus on his origins and how he started as a good guy who eventually gives up on his plans as the company becomes more and more successful. While we don't have a date or any recent updates on this movie, we can undoubtedly expect an announcement sometime soon and hope that it saves this iconic franchise. Conclusion. To sum it up, Robocop became one of the most famous characters in pop culture, and his character single-handedly spawned an entire franchise of movies and related series and comic books. Robocop's tragic story arc gained a lot of praise from the audience, and we can't wait to see what is in store for this heroic character. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
Allow me, scum.